artist once said, "Everything in excess is opposed to nature. Overconsumption, no matter what, is always detrimental."
Hello, my name is Shea White.
Hello, my name is Sylvia Chen.
Hello, my name is Santiago Rubio.
Hello, my name is Melissa Casa.
Hello, my name is Carolina Vivo. Our proposed research question is, how has overconsumption of daily commodities negatively impacted adults residing in the United States within the last 20 years? And our argument is that the overconsumption of daily commodities has led to negative, life-altering effects on adult citizens residing in the United States throughout the last 20 years. Our three solutions are, for the environmental perspective, legislation; for the physical perspective, restrictions; and for the technology perspective, self-efficacy.
Overconsumption of daily commodities negatively affects the environment. This graph shows different environmental threats and how much they actually affect the environment. As you can see, overexploitation is second only to habitat destruction. Not only this, overexploitation/overconsumption contributes to other environmental threats. For example, overconsumption of fossil fuels. Obtaining them contributes to habitat destruction, and using them contributes to pollution and climate change. In addition, pollution can lead to illnesses and diseases that can have life-altering effects on people in the United States. Global warming is an effect of overconsumption. The Earth is, in effect, a closed system which has been in equilibrium for millennia, with the sun as its ultimate source of energy. These graphs show the different growth rates of the world population, carbon dioxide, freshwater use, fertilizer consumption, marine fish capture, and tropical forest loss. And, as shown, when the use of these resources increases, so does the carbon dioxide rates. Carbon dioxide contributes to pollution, and I've discussed how detrimental it can be to people in the U.S. Also, overconsumption doesn't only affect the environment, as it has a very wide sphere of influence and many different effects.
The overconsumption of daily commodities, such as unhealthy foods and substances, have negative effects on the physical health of adults. This graph from the American Action Forum depicts how Americans consume below the recommended amount of healthy foods, which include whole grains, fruits, vegetables, proteins, and dairy, but overconsumes unhealthy products such as refined grains and added sugars. Specifically, when looking at the bars about added sugars, you can see that the light blue bar is higher, which indicates how Americans are already addicted to sugar, leading to health problems, which include obesity. This conveys how the overconsumption of unhealthy foods and substances lead to negative life-altering effects of adults. As Shea implied previously, there are many aspects of the overconsumption of daily commodities, one of them being the physical aspect. This graph from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development displays how obesity levels in the United States have steadily risen, as shown in the black line. It is also larger than many of the other countries. As the United States is one of the largest consumers of commodities, it leads to the largest obesity rates. Obesity is already an epidemic and is a large health problem, which is resulted from consuming large amounts of fats and chemical additives, as well as sugars and refined grains, as shown in the previous graph. Obesity is just one of the many negative effects of the overconsumption of commodities.
Alcohol overconsumption has been shown to have detrimental effects on a person's health, and is shown in these studies from University of North Carolina School of Medicine. Some of the effects of alcohol overconsumption include cirrhosis, which is irreversible harm to the liver, represented by the red line. Represented by the blue line, suicide, which could be due to the neurological effects of alcohol. Represented by the green line, all cancers, which is due to the effects of alcohol in the DNA, preventing the body from repairing itself, and coronary heart disease, which is due to the effects of alcohol in the blood vessels. Adding on to Sylvia's point of overconsumption leading to severe effects, overconsumption of alcohol also leads to deadly effects. Just move to the next slide. Showing these studies from National Center of Drug Abuse Statistics, it shows the deadly effects of alcohol and its byproducts. Connecting to Shea's claim on overconsumption of commodities, leading to deadly effects. As seen in this graph, out of 95.2 thousand deaths, I said previously, 31.8 of these are shown to be because of liver disease. Out of this, alcohol poisoning being 14.85 and suicide being 10.44, which leads us to believe that alcohol overconsumption has deadly effects. Personal stuff.
Overconsumption. Social media has an influence on the way one acts, behaves, and perceives the world, and because of this, it affects health greatly. In this graph by the Pew Research Center, it shows how many young adults check their phones just because they can't help themselves, and how many check their phones at night, Shown here in dark blue is 61% of 18 to 24-year-olds who check their phones at night, and shown here in dark blue as well is 81% of 18 to 24-year-olds who check their phones just because they can't help themselves. This highlights the fact that many people are addicted to their cell phones, or more specifically social media. As Sherry previously stated, overconsumption leads to environmental effects, and similarly, it leads to frightening social addiction rates. The overconsumption of social media causes many young adults to judge themselves based on others when they have no associations left, resulting in a heavy impact on their health. This graph by cyberbullying statistics shows the effects of cyberbullying on young adults. These results are obtained from a study that show that most students who experience cyberbullying also deal with mental health issues. As Santiago was saying, drug and alcohol abuse has become a problem, and as Sylvia previously stated, food consumption is excessive. Shown in yellow is 9% of young adults who suffer from drug and alcohol abuse, and shown in pink is 14% of young adults who develop an eating disorder. Although these percentages aren't as high as others, they still indicate how social media plays an essential role in many of our evil fees today.
Now, these problems are now about solutions. First of all, from the environmental perspective, we have legislation. Legislation is the key to environmental protection. When lawmakers propose legislation to protect the environment from overconsumption, it limits the harmful environmental effects such as pollution, climate change, and rainforest loss. Now, for the second solution, we have the physical perspective, and it is restrictions. Big corporations absolutely need to restrict the amount of sugar and substances being put into food, causing that overconsumption itself. Now, this will limit the negative effects such as obesity and even alcohol overconsumption. And lastly, we have the technological perspective, and that solution is self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is the preemptive solution to social media addiction. It enforces emotional processing to strengthen resolve, and not to mention, it not only just applies to social media overconsumption, it also applies to food overconsumption and alcohol overconsumption, as it helps young adults ward off that addiction itself. Now, these solutions are not without limitations. For the environmental perspective, we have lobbyists. These corporations experience very large profits from the environmental overconsumption. So when legislation is proposed to protect the environment from the overconsumption itself, lobbyists lead to opposition to these restrictions. And secondly, we have corporate resistance for the physical perspective. When restrictions are set in place, first of all, consumers are already addicted to these products, so they'll be hesitant to try the new products. And secondly, companies are going to be reluctant to lose some of the profit they will make over consumption. And lastly, willpower. Self-efficacy requires willpower, and is attribute utilized from a young age. So not everybody will be able to have self-efficacy, and not everybody will be able to build it. These are our sources, and thank you.
Thank you.
Where are you going? Back up. You guys are off. Coming off camera. All right, we'll start with Melissa. Listen, if you had another team member, what perspective or limitation could they have reached that would have made a useful contribution to your project?
If we had another team member, we would include the perspective of the overconsumption of healthcare. The overconsumption of healthcare causes many economic issues, and the overconsumption of medication, which relates to Santiago's topic about the overconsumption of drugs.
All right. Sylvia, give me one specific way that your thinking changed as a result of learning about Bivel's findings.
Bill actually didn't have any findings. She presented these solutions in the presentation.
That's still findings, though, just so you know. All right, next up, describe an argument from one of your peers' individual reports that makes you think differently about your team's solution or solution.
Of course. So actually, Melissa's individual report led a very big effect on our conclusion, because Melissa's actually addresses social media addiction, and the solution to that was self-efficacy. And self-efficacy can not only be applied to social media addiction, but it can also be applied to alcohol overconsumption, as Santiago stated in his first graph, which showed how the negative effects of alcohol overconsumption and the rate itself. And additionally, Sylvia's perspective of food overconsumption and Melissa's findings not only led me to have kind of a change my way of thinking and how we go about our solutions, but it also led me to change our solutions for the food overconsumption and the alcohol overconsumption.
All right, thanks. Next up, what's a way in which your team's solution makes you think differently about the work you did?
My team's solution made me think differently about the work we did because we had three solutions. We had self-efficacy for the technological perspective. We had restrictions for the physical perspective and legislation for the environmental perspective. But not all solutions work for the environment. While restrictions do, since restrictions are what we need to limit the overconsumption on environmental resources. Self-efficacy doesn't work because it's such a individual mental attribute that it can't be applied to such a wide and big issue.
Okay. And Santiago, how did the group decide to include Sylvia's perspective into the overall presentation?
We decided to include Sylvia's perspective into the overall presentation. Since when we think about the word overconsumption, the first thing that comes to mind is overconsumption of necessities such as food, which Sylvia addressed on her diagram on the second diagram.